A new lesson in computer art, and this time we are going to create a pyramid kind of desert landscape. And so what we're going to get into here is rendering a few more different textures and creating a scene here utilizing some new filters and things like we did in our last space scene. So what I'll do first is go ahead and start by creating a new document. You'll want to make the measurement to be 10 by 8, and that is in inches. We'll go with a resolution of 150. And RGB color here, background is white is okay. Alright, so first thing we'll want to do is use our lasso tool. We're going to draw an area of selection to kind of be the first set of hill here, kind of our sand dunes. So again, just kind of drawing a little bit and then holding my mouse down and going all the way around the corners to make kind of this foreground selection here. I'm going to want to fill that with a gradient, and the gradient I will want to have be going from, I'm going to adjust the opacity here because this is transparent. You can see with the gray boxes. So I'm going to turn this up. This first color I want to be kind of a tannish color. And so we'll find that down by the oranges here, and then blending into a dark brown color at the end. So taking a darker brown color here, and that should work. Maybe not as dark as that, more like that should do better. Cool. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and fill this in. Right now I just noticed that I used a radial gradient. I'm going to actually use a linear gradient, this first option here, and get a nice tone for my first layer there. Actually what I wanted to do was do that on a new layer, not the background layer, and so I'll do that one more time there. I'm going to go ahead and create another new layer. This one I'm going to drag behind the first one. I'm going to press Command D to deselect that first selection, and now I'm going to go back a little bit further and make another layer there. Oops, that I just realized I did not go all the way down, holding the mouse all the way down and around this bottom section to make another selection there. And this layer I'm already on is behind layer 1. I'll use the same gradient that I mixed before. And there we go. And you'll see I only pulled that gradient down so far so that the darker color ended up happening earlier. That way I can tell the difference between where these two layers are. Now what I'm going to do is add another layer on top of this. It's going to have a bit of a sand texture to it. Okay, so what I want to do here is actually Command click on this layer and then create a new layer right over the top of that. What we'll do now is I'm going to fill with a pattern. So I believe what I need to take is my pattern stamp tool, and let's see what I have for options here. So if I go into my pattern menu at the top here and I check out some of these different patterns here, you'll see we've got some different options. Artist surfaces. So here are some different options of things we could add textures to. If you hover your mouse over them, it should tell you what the name of that particular texture is. Wax crayon, for instance, watercolor paper. Let's go into some more nature patterns is what I think we should be looking for. And in here we should find some more natural textures we can apply to this. Okay, still not quite the ones I was looking for. Let's try one more time about rock patterns. Okay, these might be the ones I was looking for. Black marble, gravel, granite, rocks. Here we go. There's the dirt textures that I was looking for. So here's a dirt texture. We'll go ahead and fill this area with that dirt texture. What we'll want to do is make our brush size much bigger. And let's see what happens here. Okay, so what this allows me to do is kind of brush a texture over an area. I'm clicking and holding and dragging my mouse around. Once that's filled, I'm actually going to change my layer style to screen. And what that allows it to do is kind of become more of a transparent layer, right? Another option that I was thinking about trying might be overlay. And that actually I like the colors a little bit better of, a little bit brighter. So let's try and repeat that process again with our layer 2. So I'm hitting Command, holding Command on my keyboard, and clicking on the thumbnail image so that it automatically selects the area that I have chosen here. Now I'm already have my stamp tool selected, so I can just brush this texture over the top here. You can even experiment with leaving it blank in a few areas. Oops, I actually just recognized that I need to undo that. I did not create a second layer for this one. So we should have 4 layers total now. And again, just brushing some of this texture over the top here. And then changing my layer style to overlay. And there we go. So we got some nice kind of sand texture going. And now what we'll get into is adding a background. So again, I'll go to my background layer, create a new layer right above that. And what I'm going to do here is mix up a interesting gradient for the sky. And so what I could use is maybe a color gradient that has 4 colors like this to start, and then just go into this and tweak it and kind of make it my own colors. So try not to use the presets that are there, but mix your own kind of gradient combination. So I got red and a purple, maybe this orange. I'll keep, maybe I'll just change the blue here. It'll go to like lighter blue. Cool. That's a good one. And you can always click and move and adjust the positions of your gradient shapes. You know, maybe I'll flip this one around over here. This might look a little bit better actually. Warm colors into cool colors. Okay, cool. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and fill in my background layer here with a gradient. And now what I'm going to do is give this a bit more texture. So what I'm going to use is the blur tool, or maybe it's the smudge tool actually. The smudge tool is what I'd want. It hides out here with the blur tool and sharpen tool, and smudge tool just looks like a finger. That's going to smudge and blend these colors that we have here. So again, I'm choosing a little bit bigger brush that's got a faded edge. I'm going to turn this one up a little bit, make it big, and essentially what I'm going to do is just kind of click and drag around on this sky. Sometimes it takes a minute for it to process some of these things if we do really complicated marks. So try and do your marks kind of as simple as possible, one click at a time, kind of just taking some of these and brushing them around. And you'll see each brush stroke is kind of taking the color from where I start clicking and picking it back up into the end of where I let go. And again, don't make too many marks because that's going to cause your computer to get a little hung up if we do too many of these type of marks. I'm just going to brush these parts in the sky a little bit more here, and as you can see, this happens much more quickly and easily if I make really quick short marks. So that's what I am trying to do here. Quick short marks that seem to stick around a little bit better. Great, so that pretty much does that. Got a nice background layer here, and above that layer now I'm going to actually go to something we used on our last project, which was using the filter that adds clouds. So we want to render some clouds here. Not difference clouds, which is what we used last time, but regular clouds. And you'll see what it will mix in is whatever color you have selected as your foreground color with the clouds. That yellowy color actually works pretty well, so I'm going to keep it around. Now what I'd like to do is change this layer style again. I think the one I want is overlay again. There we go. So I can see my sky kind of coming through there. I might just try around. I feel like maybe I was looking for a different one, but you know what? If I do the overlay, or the screen rather, then maybe turn my opacity down. There we go. I can get this to be a little more see-through. Alright, so maybe I'll turn that to like 50%. That seems pretty good. I'm going to take my eraser actually and erase some of this. Pretty good size here. That'll work. I'm just going to erase some of these clouds so that the sky comes back through in some of these parts. Alright, so it just kind of dissolves and fades the sky a little bit, adds a little more atmosphere to the scene. Next we are going to add the drawing of the pyramid. And that's really the last step here. So I'm going to start by making one bigger pyramid up close. I want that to kind of breach both of my layers of surface here. And I want to get this to be almost as straight as I can. I'm going to need another new layer for this. Okay, and this is actually going to be, oops, I don't want to take that layer, but this layer needs to be on the very top here. I'm going to go ahead and make this bar a little bit smaller so we can see the layers more clearly. As you can see now, we have 7 layers. We're on the 7th one here, and we're going to fill another texture in here. And this texture is now going to be maybe one of these different ones. We can take our gravel or stone or marble textures. Let's see what this marble texture looks like in here. Okay, so that's one way we could do it. Not much color to that though. This is a rock texture. There we go. I think that works pretty good. And you can even blend and mix textures if you'd like. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this, and like I said, I want to turn this so that the inside edge here, this one, is pretty much straight up and down. Alright, and then I will apply that transformation. Now I'm going to do is I'm going to basically just take and duplicate this layer. Oops. So we can hold Option and click and duplicate that triangle there. Next step is we want to flip it. So we're going to take that image layer and we are going to flip it on its side. So actually what we need is our edit menu at the top bar, going down to transform, and we are going to flip this layer horizontally. Awesome. So now I'm going to move that into place here, and now we have our pyramid pretty much put together. I'm going to do a couple more things, a couple more adjustments, add some shadows to this, and then we're going to duplicate it to add our second one, and that'll be pretty much that. So actually what I'm going to do is adjust our hue and saturation of this level, and I'm going to take the darkness of this side of the pyramid and turn it down, so that way it appears to be a little bit darker on one side than the other. Alright, cool. So now basically all I want to do is take both of these layers, hold Shift and click to highlight both of them, and now I can Option and click on this pyramid to actually move it over here and make it a little bit smaller so that it appears off into the distance. And there we go. That pretty much completes that. The last thing I might add into this scene is a rendering of another lens flare, which I think could be pretty cool and pretty easy thing to add in here. So I'll go on my background layer, I'll go ahead, filter and render, and add a lens flare. And maybe we'll move it to this upper right hand corner, seeing as the shadowed side of my pyramids is this side. It would probably make the most sense that it was up in that corner. And just trying to choose which lens flare I want. That one looks pretty good. And there we go. Voila! A nice little desert landscape with a few pyramids in the mix. So feel free to be creative and kind of add your own twist on this scene. Hope you have lots of luck with it.